Hi, Azul, Valérie Thomé from SOULand. SOULand is making the world of our longing. And this morning, I am with Phoa. We're going to be conversing and responding to the message of water that was given by the River Dart in England, in Devon, on the 2nd of December 2016. Leanne is part of a whole river of responses from really beautiful people, and she will introduce herself and tell you what's alive in her life at the moment, and will enrich this big river of response with her own response, and then we'll see what happens. So Leanne, thank you so much for this morning, giving me some time with you.
See, Azul, thank you for inviting us and creating this space and having the receptivity to receive the message and then to share it with us. And yes, my name is Phoa, and I'm born in a land of water. There's more water than land. We are 2/3 of our country below sea level. And actually, I was born in the lowest point in the Netherlands, which was 8 meters below sea level, and it's only a 20 minutes drive from the sea, the North Sea. And I just recently walked this summer the river Mersey, which is 925 kilometers. I walked more than 1,000, and that's in that watershed I was born, where the Meuse and the Rhine come together in the delta towards the North Sea. And that I did this to walk for drinkable rivers. I see if we have drinkable rivers again, it means that an entire watershed are healthy. And that's a little intro about me. Thank you. And what is alive for me right now as a response also with the message of water is that what came to me as a message 13 years ago, canoeing an entire river for a month in northern Canada and the Rupert River. Basically taking a sip directly from this healthy, beautiful, vital water brought a tear to my eyes. And it was both a tear of, this is beautiful, and realizing actually this is normal. And later, not even 3 years later, I returned to that same river that I was able to drink for the entire month. And then another tear came to my eye when I held the hand of a Cree indigenous woman who has been living there for hundreds of years, maybe thousands, who had just gotten ill drinking that river water and eating the fish with mercury. And so that made an intense sadness and also a realization how quickly such a change can happen and how vulnerable these systems are and how we are interdependent of that and need to take care of this. And so, yeah, from a sip to a tear, the Rupert River became my teacher. And so it resonates a lot that you got the message from water Azul at the River Dart, because the Rupert River actually made me go to be at the Dart as well. It was flowing to the Dart because I saw how we have words for the river and we have words for the bank, and that actually that the quality of this drinkability can arise when these relationships are healthy between the two. And but that we don't really have the words to say to typify that relationship with the bank and the river. And so I thought, how with these teachings from the river, where can I study this? And that made me go to study at holistic science at Schumacher College, where you and I met, and where the River Dart was. And I spent every day at this beautiful river at a particular spot. And I also was able to write all my essays and thesis there. And there, the River Dart was teaching me about boundaries and how the bank and the bedding are as equally important. When I say river, that actually this being held and the boundedness that arises, the creativity of the free movement of the river to be there, and so in your message that you got the 2nd of December in 2016, I was actually swimming in the Dart like the 5th, 6th, 7th of December last year in the Dart. And so I got that really vibrant refreshment, and there that boundary that message also contains of 5 years is also like a bedding for us to unleash our collective and individual awakening and creativity and action. So I think that that these boundaries are actually our lifelines. And so that was a teaching of the River Dart, how the boundaries give rise to this beauty. And then the River Meuse, so what's alive for me right now is this beautiful river that starts in France on Plateau Langres, where it's 400 meters high, this plateau, and then many different rivers start there. If the raindrops, it's a rain-fed river, if the raindrop in the north falls, it becomes the Meuse. If it falls to the south, it becomes the Marne and goes to the Mediterranean. If it falls to the west, it becomes the Seine and goes to the Atlantic Sea. And when it falls to the east, it will become the Mosel, which goes into the Rhine, which joins then the Meuse into the North Sea. So this one spot in Europe is so important for all, and determining the destination of all these raindrops. And here in the River Meuse, I walked 60 days, and every day I stayed with a different family. And the families started to also call me when there was a thunderstorm, how are you doing? And then I started to realize every day with this cadence of the simplicity of walking, the drumbeat, right, the rhythm, that we are a family, we are a river family, and that extends beyond us humans. It is the trees, it is the insects, it's all the fish, and so we are this river family, this watershed family, where water is our bloodline. And that is so a distinct family lineage where we share, and it's much more clear boundary than a country line. So only watersheds come only together in the deltas. For the rest, they are distinct, and every human being in the world lives in one of these watersheds. And that's why I think if we start to experience that our body extends to the earth body and to this watershed body, that then we can feel much more like a watershed, and then we can move much more like a watershed, and then we can act in alignment with this entire watershed. And so that is what I feel moved to from the messages and the teachings I got from the rivers. And also when I hear your message, it aligns me even more and grounds me more that this is the time to come to truly be feeling that love and trust that we are invited to be held, and from that be our rivers, be like rivers, and be then so strong, and so that we can also, as citizens, as people, we can rise so much more if we live our lives from this place where our heart sings, that we feel very awakened, where we feel life is an adventure. And so an adventure requires love and trust, and step into that to also create this more respectful civil disobedience, not just accepting how things are, because yes, it's beautiful that we can turn a tap and drink the water, you know, I'm really thankful, and yet to have that as the norm, we forget that to drink like this from the river is actually normal.
Leanne,
So.
there is a couple of things arising listening to you. Thank you so much. You're what I call a water weaver. You weave water and you even weave rivers. It's so beautiful, this tapestry you've been weaving right now. There's a couple of things that I feel very certain fire arising in. There's a couple of things in the message that I would love your response to. One is when she says, do not worry about me. Do not worry. Do not focus on saving me or us. It isn't the story. It isn't the truth. So that's one of them. And then you reminded me again of a message I received in Scotland, very short, during the Standing Rock, time of Standing Rock, where all these tribes were reunited thanks to water calling them. And in Scotland, she kept saying, the water kept saying, bring them to me and they will heal. So it turned everything upside down for me. It wasn't us, this sort of, you know, godlike figures, you know, going to save and rescue. It was the benevolent depth, old grandmother quality of love that they have for us. You know, that feeling that there is no revenge, you know, like that title of this book called The Revenge of Gaia. This never occurred to me as the truth. It just felt actually what can break our heart to the truth is this love that I heard in the message that changed my life anyway. And I wondered if you could speak to that, you know, to this almost the sacred clown energy of turning everything upside down. And yeah, if you could say a few minutes on this, that would be really wonderful for me, and I think for anyone listening.
Yeah. I spend as much time as I can outside, because that's what makes my heart sing, and especially if I sleep outside underneath the stars, and especially hearing a river flow, or just sitting close, spending time, having this relationship, this experience. It's so grounding, healing, and at first, I say 10 years ago, I really needed a lot of that time. I spent as much, like 3/4 of the year, I was outside in the wild. And now I can feel it much more in everything, that everything around me is water, and I can feel the presence of actually reminding that we are water, we are ourselves, and then that feeling, that proximity, that we are it. Then the saving and the healing is it's right here. And and yet the softness of that water and the strength of that water, it's also reminding us to really take care. So it is rising up. It is making a stand for what take care of you, and yeah. So from like you were describing the savior, and it is more the caretaker, and yeah, that we are a co-caretaker. You know, it's in that belongingness that the message talks about.
Yeah.
It's all of us. But if one of the family members is not aligned, it won't flow like that, you know. And then that will, we humans, there will be a lot of suffering. There is already so much suffering. I think what we now see around in the world is a lot of symptoms of that suffering, and of that despair. And so yes, to get our shit together, to deal with our shit, to compost, like you so beautifully say, is a responsibility we have to take, and to find each other in doing so. Because we need to go through that grief, that despair, that pain, in order for us to be able to celebrate and to take care. And so yes, I think the full moon rhythm, for instance, it's a beautiful invitation for us to have this rhythmic discipline, but maybe rhythm helps better. Have this rhythm to be reminded. And if we all do that all around the world, then there's this morphic, right, field happening. We can connect with each other, and we don't underestimate any of our thoughts, our words, our actions, especially with response to water. And we are now starting to learn to see the receptibility of water. We can see the different moves and vitality of the water responding to thoughts and intentions and words and actions. So if we start to do that much more on a rhythmic basis, wow, what a impact that can have.
Yeah.
And then besides these, the full moon remembrances, rhythm, I think by spending time outside, knowing what your watershed is, knowing your river, feeling that relationship grow in you, you will also start to grow your own love for yourself, your body, your place, and feel the trust of doing things, and then daring to do things, even if it's a respectful civil disobedience, and saying, no, this is not normal.
Yeah.
Actually, I dream this, and that is a normal thing, to turn this dream into real daily life.
Thank you. And we're gonna wrap up soon, but I would love if you could, if there is any resonance in you about this 5 year, because we've got the IPCC report that came out a few weeks ago, which was a big impact on the whole world. Here in England, we have Extinction Rebellion, really starting for tomorrow, the 31st of October, in front of the Parliament, ready to go to prison, really saying it's unacceptable, we do not want extinction. They're really calling for something. We are calling for something. We're rising up. You've been mentioning that as well. So that was 2 years ago, the message. So there's 3 years as far as my understanding is a particular understanding of what that means. I just wondered if you have also in your nervous system or in your intimacy with the nervous system of our earth, does it speak to you, this timeline, as you talked about rhythm and the moon? there is a timeline that this water gave us. The collapsologists in France and Belgium are also talking about time, 5 years, you know, the IPCC is 12 years. It's like we are close. So close to what? I wondered if you could add your color to all these many responses. And then we're going to wrap up with much gratitude.
Yeah, the boundaries have become, I mentioned before that I think that a certain acknowledging, honoring the limits, the authentic boundaries will give rise emergence for the life-giving qualities. So our own death and knowing about that, I think makes us creative beings. And so I think what the scientists and the data is showing us is creating also these boundaries, it's showing these limits, and we're getting more and more details and insight and so on. And then within that space, to really feed our imaginations and our dreams and that singing heart of our love, weaving into that life that wants to happen within those boundaries. And I embody it in a way myself, that I'm 38 in a few days, and yeah, will I be giving life in that sense? Who knows? It is also like 2-3 years, and so that whole time frame is a very real real presence, and then also to feel that every word, every choice, every day, every step, every drop, every matters. Yes. And then to feel that with that one choice, a spin-off happens, and there you see that there can be an eternity happening when you take care of that little things. Then it can have so many ripple effects. You know, one encounter, if you make it one choice, one encounter and one choice, and it opens up, boom, so much more. So yes, this is real. We have to stay focused, not to be distracted too easily. Even with all the data, we have to feed our imagination, and yet to know that once you enter into that, the magic happens.
That is a beautiful, beautiful. I had shivered the whole length of your talking. Oh, I saw the poet again.
Yeah,
thank you.
If we are, yeah, if we know to find each other like murmuring birds, we can flock so beautifully.
This is a beautiful time to wrap up and say thank you. Is there anything burning that you'd like to add, or do you feel complete?
Well, with the working with the water every day, I learned also from the Hopi grandmother, Hopi Tiwasu grandmother, Hamona Polaka, to thank water before using it. And it's such a powerful, small act we can do, and it already moves us in a very different relationship. So that's, and then also my deep gratitude to you, my sister Azul.
Yes, we are sisters and friends for a long time and long to go. Really thank you for your poetry and your beauty and your love, and the detail of the drinkable river will be on at the bottom of the YouTube, and the video will be on SOULand.org beside many other beautiful people and responses to the message of water from the River Dart. Have a beautiful day, Leanne, and speak soon. Thank you so much for your precious time.
Very welcome.